Good morning. I'm Alisa Z, and you're with us on the Sunday edition. I am joined in the studio this morning by a gentleman I met via Zoom another time, but now I get to see his smiling face live and in person. Martin Manna with the Chaldean Community Foundation. Good morning, Martin. It's so good to see you face to face.
Yeah, good morning, and so beautiful in person, by the way. It's great to see you as well.
I have to leave and blush for just a moment. Thank you very much. We were talking for quite a while before we went on the air this morning. There is so much we have to talk about the Chaldean community here in southeastern Michigan, the Chaldean community in Iraq, what is happening there and why, and overall how we can do a better job of just being more accepting, Martin. I mean, that really is, I know I'm the kumbaya girl, all sunshine and lollipops, but I believe it. I believe we should all be getting along, be welcoming to those coming into our community, because what made it our community to begin with and gave us the right to say, oh, no, I don't want you here. So let's start first with what is a Chaldean person?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. And, this is the 20-year anniversary of the Chaldean American Chambers. And one of the major reasons why we launched the chamber was because of an image problem we thought we had, that many people didn't understand what a Chaldean was. Why are we here in Detroit area? And from the chamber, eventually the Chaldean Community Foundation was born. But to simplify what a Chaldean is, Chaldeans are indigenous to Iraq. They predate the Arabs, the Kurds, the Turks. They're sitting some 5,500 all the way to Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, which is, again, present-day Iraq. The Chaldean community has a native tongue, which is Aramaic. Aramaic is the oldest continuously spoken language. From Aramaic came Hebrew and Arabic, all Semitic languages, by the way. And the community also at one point was 1.5 million in Iraq, and today it's fewer than 200,000. As we talk about the 20-year anniversary also of the U.S.-led invasion of Iraq, we've seen many of our people displaced because of it, and have seen more than 90% of the community flee because of religious and ethnic persecution.
How are those who are remaining maintaining their lives there?
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, if you look at the news more recently from Iraq, we were hoping things would get better for the Chaldean community. But you'll see that the Chaldean Catholic Patriarch, who oversees all the Chaldean Catholic dioceses throughout the world, which is 19 Chaldean Catholic bishops, was recently being targeted in Baghdad, and an arrest warrant was issued for him. So he had to flee to the northern part of Iraq for safety reasons. They've just recently banned the sale, consumption, distribution of alcohol, and many of in our community there, business or other minorities like the Yazidis. So things aren't good. I mean, we're working on some longer term solutions with the government there, mainly an education campaign, so that the Christians of Iraq have been there way before many of the people that are currently there, and that they immensely to the region.
Of course.
And that Iraq has quite a unique history, right? I mean, you talk about the Bible and Ur. Ur means city. Ur of Chaldees is where Abraham was born, and the father of three faiths and so many other wonderful archaeological and religious sites throughout the country, that we're trying to get this to become a different conversation in that country, in which they could be accepting of the indigenous people there,
yes,
the minority communities, and they should be able to coexist. I mean, that's our goal. We have a lot of work to do.
Does it make you crazy? Because it makes me crazy, so I'm just wondering if it makes you crazy when people say, I don't know the difference between Iraq and Iran. Is that like native board to you?
Well, there's many people that just don't understand the complexity nor the diversity of the Middle East, right?
Right.
Even in Iraq, there's a wonderful Arab community that might be Shiite or Sunni, but people don't understand that there's also these great communities, the Assyrian, Chaldean, Syriac community, there's Yazidi communities, there's Kurdish communities. It's quite a place for diversity. And then when you talk about Iran, this Persian culture and the history of Iran, and the fact that there was quite a long history between Iran and Iraq, and this 8-year war with Saddam Hussein. And so I don't necessarily mind it. I like educating people. I think I get a little more concerned when I'm here in Detroit and people still don't understand what a Chaldean is, because this is our largest concentration now in the world. And so we know that we have to do more as far as educating and just enlightening people about who we are and why we're here.
And that's really what it's all about when we're getting to know anybody. Somebody asked me, well, when you're interviewing somebody, how do you think of things to ask and what do you want to know? And I said, every interview is a first date. We're getting to know one another. We want to know what's going on. I've chatted with Marjan Kapoor. I don't know if you know of her or not, but she is extremely vocal and has launched a foundation to talk about women's rights and the atrocities committed against women in the Middle East. And they have been difficult conversations I've had with her, but I want to know because we need to know, don't we? We need to know.
Of course. We all need to get to know our neighbors more than anything else, right? And,
yes.
And coexist.
And that's it exactly, is to coexist. I live in a neighborhood where I've always said I like the fact that when my kids were growing up, they were all grown already, but when my kids were growing up, they had friends on one corner, and one little girl was named Sakina, and another was Ingrid, and another one was Joanne, and some guy named Mark. I mean, we're supposed to be in these in a non-homogeneous world, and yet too many people, I think, don't go outside their comfort zone and say, so I'm going to make some kanafa for my next door neighbor for Eid, which one of my daughters did, to reach out. I don't expect them to make a potato kugel for me, but it was just nice to reach out and say, let's learn a little bit about one another. And with the Chaldean Community Foundation, I know you're working very hard on welcoming and supporting members of the community, but also doing outreach to make sure that other people understand what this is all about. Does that distill it down a bit?
Oh, of course. And, we try to instill that in all of our community. I mean, the Chaldean Community Foundation now serves more than 40,000 individuals a year from 48 different countries of origin. And more than 20 or 25% of the people we serve are non-Chaldean. And so, but it also gives us an opportunity not only tell our story, but hear about other people's stories. You talk about this region. You have such beautiful museums, whether it's the Museum of African American History, the Holocaust Memorial Center, but also the Chaldean Cultural Center. And we're working with all these diverse groups that we can help gain a better of understanding, not just in the leadership of these communities, but the neighbors that you live next to. So they are welcoming of one another's faith and culture and identity more than anything else.
How do you think we're doing in our schools, Martin, in teaching kids world religions class and learn a little bit, one page on several different religions? What about cultural lessons? Has there been any advancement that you know of in any of our communities in the region?
Well, we do a lot of cultural competency training, and we do it with the school districts. I would never want to criticize the school districts. They have so much that they have to worry about. And frankly, you worry about security nowadays, even more so than in education.
Yes.
It's quite frightening. But we, I think, would like to see more of these districts just more engaging of the communities they serve. You look at Warren Consolidated Schools or Utica schools in the area that we serve, like in the Macomb County, and some of their schools are 30 to 70% Chaldean. And it's like anything else, right? When you go back to you want your student body, you want your staff to reflect your student body, and we're trying to help with recruiting. We're trying to help them identify qualified teachers, but within that also provide some cultural competency to the educators. So because we don't understand or know everyone's background, it's like that people that come into our office, I don't know what they've been through, right? Our field try to help them get on a path to stability, whether it's through health or human services, access to health care, assisting them to get a job placement, or anything related to getting them support for the family structure.
When someone walks into your office, walk me through the process a little bit. Someone walks in. What are some of the questions you ask first to get to know them better? And then how are you able to reach out and have services for them?
Yeah, thank you for that. We have initially started our organization to assist new Americans. There hasn't really been much refugee flow, but we do still serve a lot of new immigrants. And it's kind of like triage, right? Going into an ER, we have to know and identify what the issues are first before we could serve you. So it's simple to us because we want to ask, what are you here for? But as we uncover what the reason they're here for, we also will figure out, is their English strong enough? How can we help them get a job? Do they need some financial stability? Are their kids enrolled in school? Do they need access to health care? Do they need support with anyone dealing with developmental or intellectual disabilities? We have mental health programs. We have early childhood programs. And then citizenship prep, GED prep, and a whole bunch of other services. But it's mainly just listening to them more than anything else. What is their story? Why are they here? And how can we best serve them?
And a big piece, I would guess, is helping families. I don't like this word, but I'm at a loss for another one at the moment. But helping families assimilate into the day-to-day while maintaining and clinging to and hanging on to their culture. I mean, it's the age-old issue, isn't it, with any community? Yes, we want to fit in, we want to belong, but we also want to maintain our identities. So how do you help guide people through that phase of the process?
Yeah, well, spot on. We talk about acculturation, right? So they can maintain their identity while, still being able to adapt to this new country. What most people don't realize is people didn't necessarily want to leave Iraq. They were forced to leave, whether it was through Al-Qaeda or ISIS or government challenges there. But imagine leaving and not having nothing and having to adapt to a new country. You don't know the language. You don't know the system. You didn't know you had to work to provide for your children. And so we are always telling others that story, so that this is the reason why we always seek support from our own community to help these new arrivals, because, by the grace of God, it could have been all of us.
Exactly. And I'm sure people listening now are realizing there are direct parallels to what the Jews fleeing the Holocaust, or those who were still alive leaving after the Holocaust, the Armenian genocide. Through the generations and through the decades, there have been many, many, many groups of people, whether it was religious persecution, women aren't allowed to have any rights. The reason for fleeing is we see this path. So one would hope that we've gotten it down pat by now. Like, each community should share their insight with another.
Sure.
But there are also unique pieces to the Chaldean community, just like there are unique pieces to someone coming here from Russia or Poland or Iraq or Iran. So,
that's right. I mean, you look at the history of Iraq, and you mentioned the Armenian genocide. There was 300,000 Syrians that were killed because of their faith. And then furthermore, about Iraq, there was quite a vibrant Jewish community there for quite some time. And his, during his time. And so, there's been books written about the Sabbath and, what's happened to the Jewish community and now what's happening to the Christian community. And unfortunately, it's similar with the exodus out of Iraq. And then you have ISIS, right? ISIS comes into Iraq, this caliphate, and we have big populations in Syria and in Iraq. I mean, that's the lands we're indigenous to. They gave our community 24 hours to either flee, or convert, or flee, or be killed. And all of the Chaldean-owned businesses were labeled with the Arabic letter N, which meant Nasrani, which was labeled them as Christian-owned. And so they were targeted just because of their identity or their faith. And we know the history with ISIS, which thankfully was eventually defeated.
We're going to pause for a moment. Do you have a couple more minutes to hang out with me?
Yeah, thank you.
Before we do, let's please, for the organization, what is the website?
Sure, it's chaldeanfoundation.org.
Well, that's easy. Chaldeanfoundation.org. Manna with the Chaldean Community Foundation. I'm so grateful that I've gotten to spend some time with you today. It's been enlightening, informative, and very interesting. Thank you very much. And thank you all for spending your Sunday morning here with us. Once again, I'm Alisa Z. You're listening to the Sunday Edition.